You're listening to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Here are your hosts, Fran Chismar and Tom Kinezic.
Welcome back to The Buzz, brought to you by the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Magic Mind and Pinelands Nursery. I am Fran Chismar.
And I'm Tom Kinezic, and today we're buzzing into episode 139.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, good luck to all the people who listen on 1.5 speed. Oh, like that one. I just threw off your day. But no, we have a fun episode planned today, and as usual lately, before we get into all our cool, fancy plant stuff, we want to do a little follow-up on some of the things that we have going on, upcoming events, that kind of stuff. We don't have a live show. I'm not going to plug a live show because we don't have one.
No.
But Fran, you have a big announcement that you want to, something podcast-related that is coming up.
Oh, I do?
Well, you have it listed here as the first bullet point.
But we announced it last time, too.
Okay,
I just wanted to do it as a reminder.
Guess,
So it's not like a big reveal because we already did. But I just wanted to reiterate that coming up, because we've had a lot of interest as of late. Like, a lot of people have found it much later.
Yeah.
We will be back with season 2 of A Native Plant every day, and it should premiere on Monday, March 6th. It's going to be 4 days a week, just like last time, so that Friday there's no overlap with Native Plants Healthy Planet. We do have a producer this year that's coming in to help us with it. It's one of our coworkers that's been writing the episodes for us, so Tom and I can both play the game for the first part, and we're still trying to work out the kinks. And I know some of the revamping where you would either have me tell you 5 things or you would guess 5 things. There's going to be, I think, 3 or 4 things that are just givens.
Yeah, with a season under our belt, I think we're much more prepared, and adding a producer, I guess it makes it more refined. I guess which
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if she does a good job, or if we have to,
Sorry, we got to let you go. But consider she lives local. That would be
and I shouldn't be making those kind of jokes.
Yeah. No, but we just to set expectations. It's only going to be 36 episodes the way season 1 was. So it's going to just run for the spring, 4 episodes a week. I
was going to ask, why 36 episodes? And then I was like, oh, yeah, because we don't do all 5 days in a week.
Yeah.
We reserve the 5th day for Native Plants Healthy Planet.
Yeah.
And you'd be wondering why I'm saying there's only 5 days in a week. It's because we work off a business schedule and don't put in time on the weekends.
So, if there's enough written, we may go an extra week. Like, it's possible we could go 40 episodes. We'll see how it goes this spring, but that is our plan. So we'll go March through May again, and we're really excited to bring it back since it seems a lot of people have found it and there's a lot of interest. Because I know I learned a lot personally, and it was a lot of fun for us. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. That was a lot of fun. Really excited to kick that back up. We also have a couple job openings. I've been plugging that the last, I feel like, forever now.
Yes.
We are getting into our hiring season. We start getting busy, like, in the office middle of February is when it starts to pick up.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get some folks in here and ready to go. So we have our seed salesperson. We're trying to finalize that assistant propagator position we've been looking for a long time. And we have that kind of narrowed down.
And if it makes a difference, that person would work closely, the seed person, with both Tom and I.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't know. That's
that might not be a selling point there, Fran. I don't know. If you thought listening to Fran for an hour and a half a week was
my Lord. Imagine being cornered and not being able to mute or turn the volume down, take your headphones off.
And then we have some, we're looking for someone to help with our shipping. So a lot of pulling plants. That's a pretty fast-paced job, doing a lot of UPS work and even more so loading trucks. That's what we're really looking for there. And then we just have a variety of other positions. We have an internship program that is going to kick on this summer that we've got a couple applications already. You can find all of this on our website. It's pinelandsnursery.com. In the top left, there's a little menu button, like so many other websites have. You click that, and then there's a line that says career opportunities. Everything we have open right now is listed there, and there's a couple I actually have to add. So
okay, awesome.
hopefully by the time you're listening to this, it's all up there. But stay posted.
This is it's a good opportunity for they're all good opportunities, but in an industry that's really growing. It's exciting times. Like these next 5 to 10 years are going to be pretty thrilling in what we see in ecological restoration. So this is a good opportunity for someone at this point.
Yeah. And we also plugged last time, but we have that native plant growers Facebook group. So if you are in the industry, so we're looking for people who are, you're not doing this as a hobby or as a gardener, someone who you work at a native plant nursery, you own a native plant nursery, you manage one.
Not a nursery that grows some natives.
Some natives, people who are, hey, we're all in on natives.
We're a native plant nursery.
We consider ourselves, a native plant nursery.
Yeah.
This is what we do. Or seed producer at the same time.
Yes.
So your primary saleable product is native plants, and you're doing this for a career. That's the kind of people we want in this group, because we want to have that like-minded individuals come together and kind of form a brain trust in a way. I don't know how much brains are going to be in that trust, seeing that you or I are in it.
That's true.
But
I have a feeling I won't be that active.
Because we have similar problems. We have similar ideas. So it's a good way for us to kind of network and work together on things instead of being we consider a lot of our we've had nurseries on here before. We're friendly competitors. So why not work together on the big things? We're still going to have some stuff where we really want to sell to these people and we don't want you to. That's always going to happen. But if we can work together on the big things and saying, hey, more people just need to be buying native plants. Let's make that pie bigger for all of us. We're all that rising tide lifts all boats technique. That's what we're trying to accomplish there. So if you are, I know there's a lot of growers who listen to this, who are in the business, shoot me an email or find that it's just Native Plant Growers on Facebook. You look that up and request to join. It gives you a little questionnaire. This is to weed out the people who are trying to infiltrate our group. Just gives you a little questionnaire so I can kind of vet and say, okay, this person is actually in the business versus not, because I don't know all of you. And
without sounding wrong, we don't want someone that's just has an interest in native plants. We want people that are native plant growers.
Yep. And that's just because I think we mentioned last time we want to have it. The people in this group, we want to have that base understanding and knowledge. Don't need to.
It's a give and take. Yeah. It's not just someone coming and saying, "Tell me everything you know," and I'm going to use it and get started. We want it to be a give and take. Hey, I can share this, but I have these questions.
Exactly.
That type of thing,
so, and then the last thing I had on here, Fran, was it's our trade show season, that starts literally Wednesday.
Actually, for us, Monday, because we were setting
that's
up.
true.
Yeah.
So, we're going to be at. It's the Mid-Atlantic Nursery Trade Show.
In Baltimore?
It's in Baltimore. That's we're going down Monday to set up. We'll be there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yep. We're going to go to the New Jersey ASLA show, which is this landscape architect show.
29th of January through the 31st, which is a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Okay. And then
which we exhibit the Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah. There's the Partnership for the Delaware Estuary
Conference
which is in the same hotel. It's
different floors.
Different floors. So this is really great for us.
At the same time.
On the same day.
January 31st, 30th, 31st, and February 1st.
Yeah, and then I'll be at Total Pro Expo, which is our New Jersey Nursery and Landscape Association show. That's going to be on January 31st and February 1st. I'll be there at least one day.
So, and those dates for the Mid-Atlantic Nursery Trade Show, or MANTS, is the 11th through the 13th of January.
So. And why I want to list those out, the stuff that we have coming up over the next month, is if you listen to this podcast and you want to say hello and give us a pat on the back and say what a great job we're doing, we are more than open to that. We want you to come in and pat our egos a little bit.
You want to snap a selfie with us?
Take some pictures.
No, and we'll have our Native Plants Healthy Planet stickers.
Yes, yep.
So
at least one of us will be wearing Native Plants Healthy Planet T-shirts. I don't know if mine are going to come in time. I ordered them.
Mine are all here, and I'm ready to go.
I'll be borrowing Fran's.
I'll have them on. Yeah, I'll have them on all 3 days.
But so I say that because I know there's people who are going to be at these shows that listen to our show, and we want to get to know people too. It's a like I'm joke around about it. We're in a room by ourselves, just kind of talking, but we're talking to thousands of people out there, and it's nice to kind of put a name and a face with who's actually consuming this information.
With technology, trade shows have really changed.
Yeah.
Where back in the day, it was where, first of all, you didn't have as many nurseries or sales reps, but you would go there, pick up a business card, grab a catalog, maybe place your order while at the show. We don't produce a catalog anymore. There's digital business cards. People are placing orders all the time. It's not just the seasons have changed. The industry has changed. So really the main function at the trade show is meeting people and talking to them. So if you don't stop by and do that, it's a very lonely show.
Yes. Yeah. But it's I think it's just another opportunity to network, and we'd love to get to meet you guys. So
exactly. I agree. Yes. I agree. I think that's all of our
let's get into the plants for vibing this week and start with That's Hot.
That's hot.
Would you like to go first? Or
I'll go first since you put me on the spot there.
Okay.
And say mine is one that we've talked about a ton, and that's Eastern Red Cedar, which is Juniperus virginiana. How many times has this been our one of our That's Hot plants?
This maybe I think we've each done it once, maybe, or I don't know. It's at least the second time.
I think I've done it twice myself.
Okay.
And why I chose that is not because it's January and it's an evergreen plant, and that's why I chose it before. I'm actually choosing, Fran, do you know why I'm choosing this plant?
I don't.
Yeah. Well, if you look to your left, my right, you'll notice there's a big pile of wood on the floor.
Oh, yeah. I almost forgot about that.
So, we're doing a little office remodel, and one of the ideas, when I went to Roundstone Native Seed in Kentucky, they have a lot of like open wood walls, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I'd love to do something like that with our office remodel. So when I was at Home Depot, I was in there, and I'm like, what can I pick out? And I saw they had Eastern Red Cedar, like shiplap planks.
And I love that they have both the botanical and the common name listed on the packaging.
So I bought a bunch, and we're going to make our wooden wall is going to be with that on there. And it's just a good reminder that forest products are important habitat in a sense too. Yeah. I think our forestry industry has changed a lot, especially here on the East Coast, where there's still issues with it, but they're thinking about creating habitat in a sense. Because you plant a tree and you want to harvest the lumber, it's not like that tree. It's not like other businesses where I'm going out and I'm planting it one day and I'm going, even like farming, and I'm going back in the fall to go get it. No, you're waiting not even just years, decades in a lot of cases before you're harvesting this stuff. So in the meantime, you have, in some cases, actual habitat. So it was something, when I was thinking about it for a while, I'm like, it's a native species we grow. It's probably from not that far away from where we are. So that's what's going to be on our wall. And it smells great.
Yeah, and they have it listed as aromatic cedar. But I love that it's something that we've talked about, but we've talked about it in a different way each time, which just proves its value to me in every time that we talk about it. So I think that's awesome. That's a great choice.
Yeah, and I can't even pronounce your choice, Fran, so I'll let
it's actually
go with
something that we used to grow when I first started here. I don't know if it's that species, but my choice for this week was coastal dog hobble, which is Leucothoe axillaris. I think we used to grow Leucothoe. I can't remember which one. I want to say racemosa, but I can't remember because I can't remember if that's a native one or not. But that one's deciduous.
I don't know.
So Leucothoe, low-growing evergreen shrub, which is 2 to 4 foot tall by 3 to 4 foot wide, and it's vase-shaped. White blooms with a slight fragrance in May, kind of resembling Japanese Andromeda or heather. It's native from southern Virginia to Florida, so you're not familiar with it just because it's not native where we are here in New Jersey, but it goes west to Louisiana. It's a facultative wet, so it doesn't like wind. It dries out in the wind, so it has to be a little more protected if you take it out of its native range. It has a thick and shiny dark evergreen leaf resembling like a laurel, like a cherry laurel, which turns purplish in the winter. There are cultivars that are hardy further north. I know it's a nursery production in Pennsylvania, so you can find it locally to here. Let's see. Leucothea was the name of one of the many loves of Apollo. So that's where the genus Leucothea comes from. Axillaris refers to the flower clusters born in the leaf axils. And this information was courtesy of Missouri Botanical Gardens, which I always like to throw a shout out of where I find a lot about it. But
I should give a shout out to where I found my information. That was Home Depot in my brain. That was...
But it's if you're in more of a southern area and you're in that native range, you're probably already familiar with dog hobble. But it's a great evergreen shrub that just doesn't make it this far north. Maybe with climate change, we'll see in a decade or so. But it's a great choice, and it's one that people should know about.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that plant up because I hadn't even heard of it, and let alone know that we grew it at some point.
When I worked at Star Roses, we grew Leucothea axillaris. I think it was a variety called Rainbow. It was called Rainbow Leucothea, and I think which was definitely more hardy. I remember shipping it a little bit further north, so I know there's cultivars that extend that hardiness range. But if you want to keep it native in that native range, it's at southern. It's really like the Virginia Beach area of Virginia, south of Florida. Yeah, no, I'm looking it up now. That is a really interesting looking plant. I love the flowers on it. Yeah, and it does. So you get a little bit of some of the things that people like about some non-natives like Japanese Andromeda. You get that very similar bloom, or if you like cherry laurel, this is going to give you a very similar look. Yeah, so it's giving you the best of a lot of things that people like of non-natives. So it's good to bring attention to it if you're unfamiliar with it. So that's it. What do you think? I think two great choices. Yeah, you can never go wrong with Eastern Red Cedar. You can, but it's we've talked about that before too. But if you live in any of these areas where these plants are native, make sure you add them to your garden. They're both great choices. So you ready? Right. Yeah, let's get into this week's botany-based current events. And, of course, we always make it a competition. We're going to start That's Hot. Or, excuse me, This or That. I jumped the gun, too. It's okay. I screwed up. All right, all right. This is This or That. There. All right. Now, I'm drawing a blank as to whether or not I updated what the articles were last week. I think they are updated. So my article was about volunteer opportunities with native plant restorations in California and how some of these native plants help areas that have been ravaged by fire. And yours was also based in California about carbon offset. And was it for credits for carbon offset? Yeah, they had and that the data was kind of skewed a little bit at how they're able to read it better through satellite imagery. Yep. Yeah. Yep. So, and we do have a winner, and the winner is Tom 9 to 5. So I think that's 2 weeks in a row. That's a Dolly Parton song. It is. I knew that one. So you get to choose whether or not I kind of cheated with my article. I'm sure you're looking at it going, I thought I talked about this last time. You did, but you didn't choose it, and I figured you could talk about it more when I do it. Yeah, so no. You get to choose if you go first or second. I'll go first because mine's relatively short, and then I can be in the spotlight twice. Oh, there you go. In one totally. Episode. So my article was titled "Biodiversity of Bee Population Critical for Ecosystems." It was sent to me by my dad, who found it on it was the print.in, which I'd never heard of. And this is actually something I've noticed it. This might be a bad thing to say, but I don't know. I've noticed my dad sends me stuff from the Newsbreak app all the time, which I don't have. No. But I've noticed the only people who ever send me stuff from the Newsbreak app are like 65 plus. And I'm like, what is this Newsbreak app? And why does everyone who's older have it? And that's the only way they send articles to me is through the Newsbreak app. He's been CCing me on some of these too, and that's why I'm like, he sent it to both of us. Yeah, like I don't know. Did he send this one to you? I don't know. He sent it to my brother. I don't know if this one he did or not. I can't remember. He had sent a few, but it wasn't just to me. It was either to me and you, or me, you, and Steve. So maybe someone. Maybe Saul can call in and talk to us about the Newsbreak app. He's bound to have it. He's got to have it. And it's been a while. But no, if someone actually knows more about the Newsbreak app,
send it on over. Send me
please
some
do.
information. Just don't send it through the Newsbreak app, because then I'll have to go look up what the headline is and Google it someplace else.
Now, to
get the article.
I have to tell you, this is the first time I encountered it. I have been loving and have been using Apple News because I'm an Apple One subscriber, so I get it for free. And the article I wanted to use that I found on Apple News actually had a paywall. And it was about, and I couldn't read the whole thing, but it was about an organization in Florida that was doing drawings, artwork of native plants and leaving them where native plants exist so that you could take a copy. So you could see a native plant growing naturally in native conditions, see artwork and take a copy of the artwork home to learn about it and maybe put it in your yard. And I thought that was a fantastic program, but I didn't get by the paywall, so I couldn't use it, and I don't know anything more than that. But it's somewhere in Florida.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. I get a lot like that nowadays, where it's like, oh, it doesn't let me read it anymore. But I was just looking up more about Newsbreak, and it was I remember reading this. It was like a Chinese company that started similar to TikTok. I've talked a lot of trash about TikTok. I make TikToks, but I don't post them on TikTok. But yeah, and it's like a Chinese-owned company, and they basically just mine all your data, and it's in the hands of the people in Beijing.
Yes.
And they can do whatever they want, and it probably doesn't matter for most people.
Yes,
but
I would think most people like that.
It's because one of the things I found out is how we do this all the time, where we start our article and then we just start talking about random stuff. I found out like a while ago. It's when you have you have a conversation with someone about toothpaste, for instance, and then you go home and all of a sudden it's like you're getting advertisements for that toothpaste or that store or whatever, and you're like, oh, were they listening to me? Yeah. And there was, I think it might have been a TikTok that I saw about this, and it was saying, oh yeah, that's like a really expensive way to do it. They just, why it happens is a lot of times when you've had a conversation with someone about something, one of you has looked up that thing before on your phone. Yeah. And so they aren't actually listening to you. It's just you've looked it up on your phone, or they've looked it up on their phone. And when you're sharing the same Wi-Fi, basically, since Fran and I are sitting in the same room, my phone has access to his phone through the Wi-Fi. Yeah. So any data that's available on his phone is available through my phone. And there's people, this is when you download something on Apple, it says ASNAP app not to track. Yeah. This is one of the things that it does, because Apple's very against this. But it'll basically take that data from Fran's phone and put it on my phone. And that's why Fran and I can be talking about, oh, we want to go to, I was at this restaurant, it was really good. And then it's like, all of a sudden I start getting ads for that restaurant. And then it seems like it's listening to me, but really just took the data off his phone because he had a Google stop there. And it shows that, and then it's presenting it to me because they probably talked about this. So it seems like it's listening, but they're not actually listening. There's much cheaper ways to get that information. So I've been told.
So I wasn't sure if because we have a lot of Alexa enabled devices in our house. Yeah. I didn't know if that was any different, because there were times where I know Agatha and I have had conversations and literally we got ads within 5 minutes. Yeah. And now it's possible one of us looked it up. I don't remember, but yeah, it was a little freaky though.
Yeah. I don't know. We'd have to ask the guy who made that video, but anyway, TikTok now. So all that information, not just my information on my phone, but the people that are in my household and where I work, is available to the people who have access to the information on TikTok, the developers. And I think there's similar concerns with Newsbreak, where you have all these subscribers, and I'm at dinner at my parents' house, and now my dad has Newsbreak, and now there's access to my data, which doesn't matter for me. But say I was a congressman or a governor or someone with much more importance than I have now, then it's a security risk. And that's why they banned TikTok on on a lot of college campuses. And then I think if you're a sitting member in federal government, you can't have TikTok on your phone now. They just banned it last week, which I as a citizen, I think is really smart.
Yeah, I agree.
But as a business person, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of advantages to having TikTok. Yeah. And maybe Newsbreak too. But the places we go when we start talking about that. Anyway, back to my article. Biodiversity of bee populations critical for ecosystems. It was in the print. And I'll read a little bit, then I'll give my thoughts on the article and not TikTok and Newsbreak in China.
Awesome.
So
it wouldn't be a buzz if we didn't get sidetracked.
What's that knocking on the door? The FBI's here. What's going on?
Did you just throw your phone out the window?
So, in the first study of its kind, Rutgers determined how many more species of bees are required over the long term to maintain crop production. Scientists said in a report just published in the journal Natural Ecology and Evolution that biodiversity of bee populations is essential to preserving the ecosystem function of crop pollination, which is crucial to the availability of food for humans. We found that biodiversity plays a key role in the stability of ecosystems over time, said Natalie Lemansky, lead author of the study and a postdoctoral researcher in the Department of Ecology, Evolution, and Natural Resources at the Rutgers School of Environmental and Biological Sciences, which is SEBS for short.
Yep.
You do not need to, or you do actually need more bee species in order to get a stable pollination service over a growing season and over years. The team on the study focused on various populations of bees at dozens of farms in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and California, and found that many more bee species were not only needed for pollination than expected over an entire flowering season, but even more were needed over multiple years. The researchers said they discovered different bee species pollinated the same types of plants at different times of year. They also found that different species were the dominant pollinators on the same kinds of plants in different years. Because of natural fluctuations in bee populations, researchers said the bee species, all bee species present were needed to maintain a minimum threshold of pollination during lean years. We found that 2 or 3 times as many bee species were needed to meet a large target or meet a target level of crop pollination over the course of a growing season compared to a single date, Lemansky said. Similarly, twice as many species were needed to provide pollination over the course of a 6 years compared to a single year. The researchers based their analysis on their own extensive observations of bee visits to flowers and measurements of the number of pollen grains deposited on individual flowers over weeks and months within a given calendar year, and then over multiple years. They collected the data with permission of farmers at 16 blueberry farms in South Jersey, at 25 watermelon farms in Central Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania, and at 36 watermelon farms in northern Central Valley of California. The magnitude of the increase in species needed over multiple years were remarkably consistent among crop systems when considered over the same interval of time, Lemansky said. In addition, the fact that the relationships between timescale and the number of species needed did not level off suggests that even longer time series spanning multiple seasons may further bolster the need for biodiversity to ensure reliable ecosystem service. So,
first of all, would you have guessed there were 25 watermelon farms in central New Jersey?
Well, it depends on what. Are you counting my brother as one? he grew like 600 watermelons.
Wow, did he really?
But, yeah.
Okay. Well, I forget.
But no,
about,
I would not have. Yeah,
I wouldn't have thought of that as a staple New Jersey crop.
Yeah,
when you think of peaches and tomatoes and all those other things,
cranberries, blueberries, that kind of stuff. Where we're in the top 5 for a lot of those for
corn.
But. So but it was really interesting that this research was being done. It's something we've speculated on after talking to some different farmers that because a lot of this pollination service gets lumped onto one back, and that's honeybees.
Yes, everyone's
like, oh, honeybees are what does all the pollination, and when you really dive into it, that's not necessarily the case. And there's other studies we've come across that said that when you had honeybees present, your pollination was actually lower in some cases because they're spending so much time chasing away the competition, these other bees, and not pollinating. And I've heard observational evidence of that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to actually put this down that you can't just get away with one species of bee with honeybees, especially with blueberries and watermelons, and some of the blueberries one for being a native plant crop in a way. Well, you have native insects that are adapted to pollinating that crop.
Yeah.
So to limit the biodiversity doesn't really make a lot of sense. And the blueberries we've talked to that did this and got rid of the honeybees said, well, we had an earlier crop, a better crop, and it was just all over. Early's good because you're selling your blueberries at top dollar because the market's hungry at that point for berries. It's just really fascinating research that's done
like the
here.
fact that it's not just it's like, hey, you need more pollinators, but more diversity of pollinators in order to.
And then not just diversity this year, but also
over time.
Like over 5-6 year period. And this makes sense because it's like the fox and the rabbit experiment, the wolf and the rabbit experiment, and you have some go up, some go down. Well, the same thing's going to happen with bees due to food availability or winter or different factors. So you're going to have bees that they don't have their population declines one year and then goes up the next. So if they aren't available to pollinate, your other things are going to have to fill that void.
And not just that. For most blueberry growers, you're not looking at straight species native blueberries. Yeah. They're using cultivars, which
need a lot of times need the cross pollination.
Yeah, they need the cross pollination, and their bloom time is different times. So if you have multiple cultivars, it's not just one blooming period; it's multiple blooming periods in order to get the pollination across the whole crop. So it makes sense when you think about it that way, and that's not something everyone thinks about. It's not just straight species; it's cultivars. So and they need that cross pollination. So. That's a fantastic article.
Yeah, no, it's fun. And I think your article has we have another geographical link here, right?
Yeah. So my article is because you just attended the Senate. Was it Senate? What did?
I think it was a Senate committee hearing.
Senate committee hearing that Tom just attended. So my article is called "New Jersey Set to Tackle Plant Invaders." This is by Tom Johnson and it appeared in New Jersey Spotlight News.org. So this is something we already kind of talked about, but this will give us a little bit more. It's not a very long article, but it gives you a little more insight to what we were talking about. The legislature is stepping up efforts to eliminate the havoc invasive plants create in New Jersey. The Senate Environment and Energy Committee unanimously approved a bill earlier this month that would ban, in most cases, the sale and distribution of certain invasive plants. The legislation, which is S-2186, also would reestablish the New Jersey Invasive Species Council, an organization created by former Governor John Corzine 18 years ago. New Jersey is one of only 5 states that does not have a statewide ban on the sale of the worst invasive plants, such as Japanese barberry, Norway maple, English ivy, Phragmites, and Chinese silvergrass, just to name a few, according to the state's Native Plant Society. The Garden State is way behind other states, said Laura Bush, a member of the organization. The legislation, sponsored by Senator Linda Greenstein, which is Democrat from Mercer County, Senator Bob Smith, Democrat from Middlesex County, is designed to cover invasive plant species that are widespread and pose a risk to the ecology of the state. Many plants for sale in New Jersey have been introduced from other continents, some intentionally, others by accident. Even a relatively small number of non-indigenous plants can take over large amounts of space that otherwise would be occupied by native species. Those invasive plants can crowd out native species and spread rapidly because they lack natural enemies that might control them. The legislation would require the State Department of Agriculture to create a permitting system for the safe distribution of certain invasive plant species, including permits for research or educational purposes. The department also would be allowed to add species to a list of invasive plants if it finds that a species threatens ecological or cultural resources in the state. The New Jersey Invasive Species Council would be charged with developing a state invasive species management plan no later than 1 year after the effective date of the bill. The council would consist of official members of the state agencies and public member appointed by the governor. The previous council established in 2004 was disbanded by former Governor Chris Christie back in 2010. A report estimated that invasive plants and other invasive species had an economic impact on agriculture of $290 million a year. Besides the Native Plant Society of New Jersey, other organizations have stepped up to educate the public about the risks posed by invasive plants, including the Friends of Hopewell Valley Open Space, which established a New Jersey Invasive Species Task Force. The New Jersey Forestry Association claims that invasive species problems have increased dramatically over the past 2 decades, identifying 21 plants that have invaded woodlands in the state. Properly applied herbicides have proven the most effective for controlling invasive plants, according to a brochure prepared by the association. Under the bill, a person who sells, offers for sale, distributes, or propagates an invasive plant species for sale or distribution without a permit from the department would be subject to a civil penalty of up to $100 for a first offense, $200 for a second offense, and up to $300 for a third or subsequent offense. That's not a lot of money to be fined.
No, I was thinking the same thing.
I hadn't known about what the penalty was.
Yeah.
Until I just read that last paragraph, and I'm like, so if you're growing 10,000 Crimson Pygmy barberry and you're making tens of thousands of dollars, is it $300 a plant?
I don't know about that. I remember seeing that fine in the bill, and I'm like, that doesn't seem like that much, but I don't remember what it actually said, if it was by plant or not.
I was going to say, if it's just a general $300 fine, that's not going to prevent anyone from growing these crops because they're making a lot more money out of that. But first of all, I got to say, I got new glasses that are coming, and I can't wait because I'm realizing as I'm reading, like a lot of my stumbling or I'm having trouble seeing. So hopefully that will be better. No, hopefully that will be better by the.
Or you get LASIK like I did. You can go and do that.
It's mainly reading, so it's
it wouldn't work then.
It doesn't help. But I think this is great first steps. It's a lot of things we're really behind, even though we probably started before most of these states.
That's one of the things I really picked out is like, and I've been thinking this the whole time is, man, we were really one of the first states to do this.
Yeah.
And now we're one of the last because of politics, and that's how things work.
These invasives are creating $300 million in agriculture sales, but
it's just a change in politics, and things get held up a little bit, which in politics is like a year or two.
Yeah,
but when you're putting up to election every 4 years, and we've seen there's really good examples out west of what's the word I'm looking for? There's a term. It's like ballot box biodiversity or something. Ballot box ecology, something like that. You look at some of the wolf reintroduction in Colorado is a really good example of it, where something was kind of happening on its own.
Yes,
and you have when you look at the map, the voting map, when they voted, are we going to reintroduce wolves in Colorado or not? It was where they wanted to put the wolves, voted overwhelmingly no. The people who wanted to do it were in the city centers where they were never going to have those interactions.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, whose opinion really matters more here? The people who aren't going to have these interactions, or the people who potentially, the ranchers, are going to have day-to-day interactions with this, and it's impacting their livelihood. How our political system works, it doesn't. So I get a little aside there, but that's kind of what you have here sometimes. Well, it's just whoever's in power decides what's important. Yeah. And sometimes just because things take a little bit too long, they get completely ditched, even though in that case, they were at the finish line. It was done.
Yeah.
Back in 2009. It was done, and it was just, there was this little holdup, and then it just got completely scrapped.
But you know what? Things have changed since then, and you get to rework that approach. Maybe there was wording in previous iterations of this where maybe you couldn't make the change. Like, I love that you can add to this list. Like, I love that you have this list, but over time that list can change, and you can keep adding things as you see the environmental impact of what's going on. So, and I love that, it's going to have an invasive species task force, and especially we've had Dr. Michael Van Cleef on here from Friends of Hopewell Valley Open Space.
And Emil DeVito, Dr. Emil DeVito was there, and he was, when you go, they used to have the picture of me on there.
Yes.
It's some.
Oh, they changed it.
I think the caption is actually some invasive and beautiful, like Chinese silvergrass. Beautiful but invasive Chinese silvergrass. But it used to be a picture of me, and then there's some people that are in the way, so you can't see all of me. They're covering me up a little bit.
But a perfect example is like Japanese silvergrass. If you drive right down the road from the nursery, Route 206, going towards 537, right before you get to the diner, to the right, the county parkland, if you look through all this broom sedge, you'll see big clumps of Japanese silvergrass all throughout that meadow coming in. So, and no one planted it there. That's all coming in. So, people just say, oh, it's not spreading all over my yard. That's where it's going. It is showing up. There is proof. So it is beautiful, but there's a lot of fantastic. I know Kyle Leibarger just posted a meme today about Japanese silvergrass, and when you talk about all the native grasses and the diversity and the biohabitat, or the biodiversity and habitat they promote compared to Japanese silvergrass, it's hands down. There's no There's not even close.
So, Fran, I'm just looking up different articles. I was like, oh, they took down my picture. Where did they put it?
Yeah.
And I found from the New Jersey Monitor, they actually have my quote, but
Really?
they don't have it accredited. to me. So yeah, they just wrote that we support the bill. The New Jersey Nursery and Landscape Association supports the bill as long as they get a seat at the table. If the council does not or does officially reconvene, a representative testified. That representative was me. I want my credit. Who wrote that article? Yeah.
There you go.
I'll have to write in.
Write and say,
but
not me.
I'm just kidding. I don't really care about all that. But it was a really awesome day to see that it had unanimous support. A lot of the stuff, it was also interesting to see the inner workings of how these committees work, because they bring forward, well, I was lucky enough that I got to work with a lobbying group. Yeah. So they knew the deal already, because I walked in and they thought I filled out the paperwork to testify, and I didn't know I needed to. I thought they were doing that for me. So they went and did it for me.
Okay.
But you have to walk in, there's little slips of paper, you write down the bill number if you're in support or against, and then if you want to testify about it or not.
Okay.
And most of the ones up until that point, everyone was in support, but no one wanted to testify about it. It was just we just support it. We want to be on the record as supporting it, but we don't need to say anything.
Okay.
This was the first one where a lot of people needed to say something, and I think it overwhelmingly was supported by the whole committee. Yeah. I think even last time when I brought it up briefly, there was for New Jersey, it hadn't made national news. There's a really famous race for state senate in South Jersey, where I can't remember the guy's name. He was the Democratic party head, Representative Sweeney from South Jersey. Yeah. He got beat by this guy who was a trucker and was new to politics. His last name was, I think, it's Ed Durr, something Durr. Okay. And he was on this committee. I'm like, oh man, this is kind of neat, because I'd seen his face before. But he had some really good questions. I was based on your news bias, you could feel one way or another, but he had some really good questions about this bill in particular, other bills too, but this bill in particular, and making sure it was going to include the New Jersey Nursery and Landscape Association, which obviously I was there to support, and just saying, hey, I want to make sure that and this was a big thing for the New Jersey Nursery and Landscape Association too, is this invasive species council isn't just there to say, this is the law. Yeah. They aren't writing laws. They're giving advice, and then it goes to the lawmakers to actually make it law, which was important, because it's really, in any business, it's tough when you have someone, not for our business, but for the nursery business as a whole, you have someone who can just arbitrarily pull the strings, if it can feel. Yeah. We wanted to avoid that. But yeah, he had some really good questions about all that kind of stuff, and Senator Greenstein had a lot of good questions. Yeah, I mean, it was good all around.
As far as the nursery industry goes, this is good for our industry, but it affects us very little because we're not growing any of these. Realistically, we're a very small part of the nursery industry in New Jersey.
Yeah, realistically, from a business perspective for Pinelands Nursery, this bill passing potentially hurts us because more than it could ever help us.
More people will
so all it's going to do is shift more people into growing native plants. Yeah. I don't think overall it's going to hurt us. I think it's just going to raise the awareness on native plants.
Well, we talk about we always need more people. We need more native plants to do this and more awareness. Yeah. And I think it brings that. And
one of the things that it's something we advocate for, and a lot of people advocated for this, even the environmentalists that testified. Well, I'm not saying I'm not an environmentalist, but it was there's our proven sterile cultivars of things, especially Japanese barberry, and there's 20 years of research that are showing this is sterile, or certain varieties are sterile, and they want to make sure that's exempt. This is another place we get really lucky as New Jersey, now that we're on one of the last states to do it. All these other states have done it, and they've shown us how to do it the right way. Yeah. So we just have to copy off what New York did and Pennsylvania did, and we'll be in good shape, and we can tweak it for us. But New York and Pennsylvania, they have the exemptions, or at least New York has the exemptions for the sterile cultivars of Japanese barberry. But what it does, in my mind, is I'm going to a garden center. I read Japanese barberry is invasive and I can't buy it anymore. Oh, but here's this one that it says it's sterile. Obviously, you're already having you're questioning that. You're having second guesses about it, and it's just, even though you have these exemptions, people are gonna be thinking about it.
Yeah, totally.
And think, but there's invasive stuff out there, and what's a better option? So it's good for native plants, even though it doesn't address native plants at all.
I agree.
So,
it's a fantastic thing. So I'm glad that so many articles have. There were a ton of articles about this that I could have chosen.
But you chose the one that didn't quote me.
Well, it wasn't credit to you. I didn't know.
Didn't even include my picture. It's not a great picture of me, if we're being completely.
Well,
I look like I was just woke up.
When I chose this, your picture was still there.
Yep.
And that's what made me stop and look at it again, because I was like, oh, there's the picture. I've seen that picture a lot over the last week. But these are two great articles. To just recap, Tom has the article on the necessity of bee biodiversity. And I have the article about New Jersey adopting an invasive species bill. Both great articles. So by the time you hear this, the voting post should be up on our Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group. So make sure you go there and vote, because...
And of course, the choice is yours. So
before we do listener shout-outs, Fran, I wanted to see if you had any good Christmas cookies this year.
Ooh, we kind of stuck. My sister makes a ton of cookies, and I know one of our coworkers, Skipper, his wife made some fantastic chocolate chip cookies, and Agatha kind of stuck with chocolate chip this year because that's what we all eat. So, how about you? Did you have something
my mom always makes all these like crazy Christmas cookies. It's like she just can't make any normal cookies, which is fine because they're all really, really good. But then my aunt from Texas sent up a cookie it's not even really a cookie, but it's called an Nanaimo bar. Have you ever had one of them?
No.
And they're actually really good because it's chocolate and then like a cream layer, and then I was eating them upside down too, which was interesting. There's like a coconut almond like oatmeal-y part on the bottom, and it was layered and then cold and really, really good. When
I think of a Nanaimo, there's actually a place in Haddonfield by where I live called a Nanaimo Juice Bar.
Well, this
is very healthy.
This is actually Nanaimo, which is about the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
I think they're like a British Columbia thing.
Gotcha.
And which makes sense because she's from Canada. She's I think originally from Winnipeg, but she's also like super into the health. And instead of doing like the normal cream filling, which is she put matcha in it. Oh, which my dad, because he's the one who's given me. I've never even heard of matcha before. Have you ever heard of matcha? I'm like, yes, I have, because it's in Magic Mind. Yeah, and that's what we've been drinking a lot of. Yeah, to boost and kickstart our day.
And one of our coworkers has actually started taking it, and she was commenting today how much more productive she felt, which is good because she needs to be more productive.
That's true. I haven't had one in a while, but then I had one this morning. I'm like, I got a lot going on today. I opened up our office fridge. I saw them in there, and I took a shot, and I've just been extra productive. I feel like not jittery, just like perked up, just ready to tackle the day. And you probably heard that over the course of this podcast.
Yeah, I actually feel as if coffee is like almost like a nightmare, like a past bad dream. Like now that I've really limited it, like I looked at, we were talking about cleaning mugs. That's my coffee mug was so bad, and I know that's what my teeth. If you go back to pictures of me from like before I started drinking coffee, big difference with like just like how white my teeth were compared to the coffee stains now. Like, and I don't feel like the anxiousness and all that stuff that I felt from the coffee. I feel more productive. I feel just, I don't know, just better.
Yeah, and now they're on the Magic Mind 4.0, which it definitely tasted a little different. It was still really good, but it was different than the last batch we had.
I did taste I did taste a difference myself, but I enjoyed the taste of it.
I like it.
I do. So we encourage you, if you haven't tried it yet, to try it. There's still you can still get up to 56% off a subscription. If you use our code within the next 10 days, you can go to www.magicmind.co/nativeplants. Use the code nativeplants for 56% off the subscription, or I think it's 20% off a single purchase, but it's a no risk cancel anytime, I think, on the subscription. So If I think that's your best deal, because I have a feeling once you try it, you're going to like it and you're going to want to keep doing it. So I really recommend going that route. I don't see me not taking it anymore.
You know, I like, I'm just even looking on their website too. When you go like and hover over the buy now thing on certain things, this one, when you hover over it, it says start crushing life. And I agree. I feel like I crushed the day. So,
awesome. All right.
Let's get into listener shout outs.
Yeah, let's crush listener shout outs.
Listener shout out.
So I thought of one for you, Tom, that
good, because we did not get a single written 5-star review.
You just got a caller yesterday who was a former guest that hadn't listened to our podcast before being on.
Oh, that's right.
Milkweed, and then was mentioning how much that they've discovered it after they've been.
I have missed that one. That was put right in my lap.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And that was Sharon Salvaggio.
Yeah,
who was on the Milkweed and Monarchs episode about pesticide residues and all that. Yeah,
was it the Milkweed contamination conundrum?
The Milkweed contamination conundrum. Yeah,
it was so
that it was. It's always fun when we have a guest on who wasn't familiar with us previously as a podcast, and then starts to listen after. We've had a number of those.
Yeah,
and we had a number who we knew from the industry and planned to have on. And they just started listening independently, and then they wrote in and were like, "Oh, we didn't know you listened to this. This is awesome."
Yeah.
So, but it's always nice when you have people who appreciate. And Sharon particularly said she listened to the follow-up episode.
Yes,
where one of the things that we just discussed what we learned.
I think it was called "Oh man, not milkweed again." I think
and just kind of discussed what we learned and reflected on it a little bit, and like, oh, what are we going to do differently now that we know a lot of this and she liked that insight too. She's like, that was so valuable from her perspective, hearing that, because it gives them a glimpse into what's the next direction. So we're actually working with Sharon and Kelly Gill, her counterpart Kelly Gill, about presenting at the New Jersey Nursery and Landscape Association trade show, which is called Total Pro Expo, about that research. Now Sharon lives on the West Coast, and I was talking with some folks, and it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get her on virtually. So that's why Kelly's pulled in the fold. Sharon's going to get Kelly. Kelly's already in the loop overall. But Sharon's going to work with her to create a presentation that Kelly can give in person.
Awesome.
And it's a group of nursery people and landscapers who are primarily there to earn their pesticide credits to renew their pesticide applicator's license. So you have... I was trying to massage it when I was talking to Kelly and like what the crowd's going to be like, oh yeah, there's going to be people there. It's going to open a lot of eyes.
Yeah.
I guess is the best way to put it. But you're definitely going to have people who are going to be like, oh, this is a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. Because they're there to get the credit to spray this stuff.
Yeah.
And then this is a talk saying why you shouldn't spray it.
But there's going to be a lot of people who are like, ooh, I didn't even think about that the same way we did.
Yeah.
And they're going to start thinking about their actions a little bit more, and it's not going to be everyone. There's going to be plenty of people who are like, I can't believe I'm being indoctrinated, and,
you're thinking of a specific person. I know who you're thinking of. I'm sure we'll see them coming at an upcoming conference soon.
But yeah, you're going to have plenty of people who feel that way, but I think overall I'll put it this way: she's not going to be the most popular person in the building after a presentation.
She will be with some people.
With some people, she's going to be, and that's a win in my eyes. And that was why I really advocated for getting her in this program, or getting that presentation in this program.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can even get Sharon to do something as like a webinar based thing.
That would be awesome
later on in the year, because I think there's going to be a lot of really good questions.
And it was just really nice to hear that she's become a listener of the podcast. That I'm very humbled by that.
Yeah, definitely.
Because she's someone that we look up to. Yeah. So I have a couple that kind of represent both of us. I know you didn't have 5-star reviews, but I know you can mirror these sentiments.
Nearly as good as 5-star reviews for my heart, but not for our rankings and listenership.
So Miriam Johnson wrote into us, who is actually in the podcast industry, and wrote in and had some very kind words on our podcast and what we're doing. She's also a very avid native plant person. which we love, and we got to talk a little bit about native plants, and we appreciate the feedback, especially from someone being in the industry, to kind of validate what we're doing, because we don't know. We don't know what we're doing, but we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to write to us. Martina Piper wrote to us to let us know that on her Spotify Wrap, we were her top podcast, and she listened for 2,189 minutes this year, which is amazing. I mean, I think of anyone listening to us for that long. Could you imagine telling our coworkers that they had to listen to?
I was going to say, these are the prime candidates to work with us.
I know. So we appreciate.
I guess it's only 36 hours, so it's
but that's
like a 1 week of working.
One
with
full week. Yeah, but I really pack a lot of talking into that. So, and the other one didn't write into us, but commented in our Facebook group, the Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group, and it's Andra Pruitt, who introduced us to the American naturalist Mary Vaughn Walcott through art that she had purchased, and was saying how excited she was to learn about Mary Walcott. And I wasn't familiar with her. Tom, were you familiar? No. So it was a very intriguing, interesting find and an introduction, and made us want to learn more. So we really appreciate that. We really want to encourage our listeners to look up some of the drawings and information and what Mary Vaughn Walcott stood for and did for us, because it's very important. So if you're not a member of the Facebook group, go join and be a part of the post and get a little bit more information and do some research on your own and learn, because this is very important as far as ecology and what she was able to accomplish. So
yeah, no, great choices, Fran.
Fantastic. But if you do a 5-star review, Tom will give you a personalized shout out on the next buzz. Yeah. There were 5-star reviews, just nothing that wrote in. So. Yeah, we could make it up, but
I don't even know who they are. It's the only way I can actually know who gave us a 5-star review is if you write something there, so I can see it.
But even though there were no written 5-star reviews, we did have a question this week.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
It's a simple question.
No, I didn't hear you. What was your question?
And this is a very interesting question, because I have to say, honestly, it's something that I hadn't thought about, and it really made me think for a second. And I don't know if I even have a good answer, but I am going to play that question right now.
Hey, Fran and Tom. My name's Nick. I'm someone who's pretty early in my native planting journey. I'm still in the obsessive researching phase. I'm wondering if you have any advice for someone who lives in an area where there are concerns about rats. I live in an inner suburb of Detroit, and I've noticed on neighborhood Facebook groups and things like that, while people are very excited about all of the native planting and pollinator gardens that are popping up, there's just as much concern about attracting more rats, which we don't need in our area. So I'm wondering if there's any advice you can have for someone like me, maybe certain plants to avoid, or I don't know, put up an owl house or something. I love the podcast. Keep it up. Thanks.
That's a great question. So first of all, I have to say go Wings. So I wanted to get that out there.
Fran is one of those strange people who's a fan of the Red Wings, even though he lives near Philadelphia.
Yeah, diehard Eagles, Sixers, Phillies, and then Red Wings.
And then, I guess, I was going to say that big rivalry between the Flyers and the Red Wings was mid-90s, right?
96.
So you were probably a Red Wings fan by that point already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was. And I was not very popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense.
It goes without saying. Although a lot of my coworkers were Devils fans who beat the Red Wings in 94. So it's not really like, that was at the time they were like, oh, big deal. We beat you 2 years ago. But what I was thinking for this, immediately, this made me think of parts of Philadelphia where rats are a big issue. Like I think of the Fishtown, Kensington area that's kind of closer to the Delaware River. Like we were just talking the other day that I've seen rats cross the street that were as big as cats that made me stop and ponder whether I should actually cross the street But I think building any habitat, whether it's native or non-native, is going to attract rats. I don't know that I haven't been able to find anything that says that rats are attracted to any particular plant. It's more the habitat and the shelter. Mm-hmm. But I think you kind of hit on something when you talked about owl boxes. If you create enough native habitat for predators for rats and birds and raptors, I think, you'll go from an unbalanced ecosystem to a balanced ecosystem. You have to kind of create habitat for the predators where they're more present, where rats won't want to be present. That's my initial thought. Tom, do you have any?
I don't. But okay. I know here, one of the things I've heard a lot when it comes to the native plant habitat is people saying, "Oh, it's going to attract mice near my house." And
I have plenty of mice in my old house with no native.
Yeah, I thought that was unfounded. I think it was just people don't like change. Is really what it comes down to. People don't necessarily like change, and that's like a reason they can BS themselves a little bit so that they don't have to change.
I couldn't find
anything
scientific saying
the only
that
thing
native
I
plants
found
attract more rats.
There's something from the Santa Cruz Sentinel, and it says dealing with rats and shady native plants this week in the garden, and then I looked it up, but it was two separate. It was dealing with rats in your garden, and then native plants for shady sites. It wasn't. I was like, oh wow, the first thing I found is about this. But rodent attracting plants to avoid putting in your garden. Yeah, I don't really know.
Yeah, so to me, I think if you're creating habitat that didn't exist, say it was an empty lot, anything you put there is going to attract rats. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's going to be like the Pied Piper where they're coming in just for that habitat, but if you can create enough habitat for, maybe you want to do some shrubs with some that's good habitat and burying for birds to attract them, or raptors, birds of prey.
What I'd assume is I found another article here that's about like what to avoid with rodent attracting plants to avoid putting in your garden, and it's like some stuff that you shouldn't put in, and then it's saying definitely don't put invasive plants, which is an interesting tidbit to add in there.
Yeah.
But then it's like good garden plants to keep rodents away, and it's marigolds, garlic, daffodils, black pepper, rosemary, which leads me down the path of if you put things that are a little more fragrant, your monardas, your pycnanthemums, what's a wild bergamot, mountain mint, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The agastache, which is
like an anise,
hyssop. Those kind of things that are a little bit more fragrant are things we often recommend to keep deer away too.
And they're fantastic for pollinators.
And they're great for pollinators. So I would assume that's well, I know with mice that they don't like peppermint is like at least what I've read.
Or like ants don't like cinnamon.
Yeah. So
like things like that. So.
I would guess you have these minty plants that it's going to help with that issue too. So
that would be my guess. That's not scientific fact what we're saying. That's just based on what you mentioned. Our best guess would think that these would counteract those fears, because I think they're fears, not scientific fact. So I think if you're doing some of these things, it will help dispel that.
What's this? Predator free New Zealand.com. Native plants show potential as future rat toxins. So that's
really
a good one to look up later.
Wow.
For New Zealand stuff. Yeah. Interesting. This is a interesting, really poisonous plants. The Rat Fan Club. Oh, man, Google's a good one here. Oh, Epic Gardening, which is a YouTube channel I watch. Rat-proof garden. How to get rid of rodents in your garden. Let's see what they recommend.
All right.
Skip the mulch. Get a cat. I don't recommend that.
No cat.
Not the cat. Plant mints.
The cats are going to get rid of the birds.
Put up solar-powered repellers. Right. Create a border of herbs, which I've heard people doing for deer. Is like you have this shrub that you don't want the deer to. Well, they plant a whole bunch of those like monardas, pygnanthemums, that kind of stuff around it to kind of keep them away, because they have to go through this plant now to get the more desirable plant. Use humane mouse traps. Store pet food securely. Build a sturdy fence. Sprinkle instant potatoes.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Instant potatoes are cheap and they're surprisingly effective at eliminating rodents. Simply sprinkle a few tablespoons of the powder wherever you suspect a mouse infestation. The mice will eat them, and after they do, the flakes will expand in their stomachs. This sounds like the whole thing with the rice and the birds and all that.
Giving seagulls Alka-Seltzer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, since their stomachs are so small, the mice won't stand a chance and they will die before the potatoes can be digested. However, if you have other pets, be careful that they don't eat your potato flakes. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's probably, if you're attracting other wildlife, that maybe not the way you want to go.
Yeah, and then it's, again, the last one was planting onions around the garden and onion leek garlic, that kind of fragrant thing that apparently mice and rats don't like. So yeah, awesome. Take our advice with a grain of salt.
Yes.
Since we are not experts, we did find a dead rat in our office. So that was interesting.
That was very interesting.
Yeah. And like your story in where's the worst place you've seen rats? Was it in Philadelphia?
It was Philadelphia. I was at a concert right off of South Street at the Theater of Living Arts, and I was walking down Bainbridge to get to my car, and it was like midnight, and this rat crossed the street with confidence. And it was big, and it was mangy. And it stopped and looked at me, and I stopped and looked at it, and it just kept walking and went in the sewer. And then I stood there for a few minutes going, I feel like I'm walking into a trap. I went up on the sidewalk and ran. But, the rats in that part of Philadelphia are pretty bad, but that doesn't discourage them from creating native plant habitat.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the worst I ever saw was in Paris, which is known for being a very rat-infested city, and it was like we were walking by a garbage can, and there's like a bag of garbage next to it, and it was moving, and then you get close and like, oh, there's rat, and you know how there's like grates or like the grate metal garbage cans that they're like going in and out of it. It was really kind of creepy. It looked like a movie type thing, like a horror movie type-esque thing, and this was literally. If you've been to Paris, there's that little island where Notre Dame is. That was like the plaza right there. Yeah. So this was a well-trafficked part of the city. Oh. And there's a lot of people around, and the rats didn't care. They loved it.
Wow. So, yeah. All right, let's move on.
But maybe Nick, one of them was a great chef. So
maybe. But Nick, thank you for such a great question and calling in. We appreciate it. So that was a fantastic question. You don't have a Grow Read a book.
No.
But we do need to move on to our topic because we've been talking over an hour already.
Yeah.
So the last episode, it was great for the feedback. The last buzz before the end of the year was the top 10 episodes of all time. Mm-hmm. And we heard back from some of the listeners that they hadn't listened to some of these and went back. And then we did best of and played 2 episodes that we both really liked. And there were listeners that, again, commented like, oh, I hadn't made it back that far. So it was great to hear these, or I bought the books.
And folks who said, oh, I got a text today from Bill Young saying, this is going to be a listener shout out, saying, I love those are 2 of my favorite episodes, and I was so glad to listen to them again. So,
so it's, we thought it was great saying what the most listened to episodes were and some of the best of, but we wanted to go back and talk about some of our favorites that aren't going to make that list. At least not yet. Maybe after we mention them, people will go back and say, "Oh, we hadn't listened to these," and we're going to go back and revisit them. Mm-hmm. So, you want to go back and forth? I'll do one. You do one?
Go ahead.
So I know this is more recent, but both episodes with Dr. Peter Groffman, which is Your Lawn Does What, parts 1 or is that what it was? Your Lawn Does What, parts 1 and 2,
part 1 and 2. Yeah.
Episodes 134 and 136. I learned a lot from Dr. Groffman. I was really surprised that he's not someone that we knew.
Yeah.
I was happy that someone, Skip Burns, recommended him to us from a podcast he had listened to, and he was a fantastic guest. I think he enjoyed being on, and I'm sure this is just the beginning of a beautiful relationship with Dr. Groffman.
Yeah, definitely.
But the first one, part 1, I think holds the record for the most listens first week.
Yeah, I agree.
Easy. And that was very nice to see. So I was very happy, and I wanted to point. I know they're recent. More than likely, if you're listening to this, you've listened to them. Actually, Miriam Johnson, who we gave a shout out to, said she learned a lot from those episodes. Yeah.
So, we said it last year, and I just want to give another plug because it's probably my favorite episode we recorded ever, and that was the one with Sam Thayer.
Yeah,
and I don't remember what number it was, but
it was early on.
Yeah, he's like the guru when it comes to foraging, or one of the gurus, and it was just went way different directions than I ever expected, and it was just really, really insightful. But then the list I made for this year, the first one I had was episode 124, which is the Moth Night episode that I did, and you weren't there. And it was different. It was different, cool. Yeah. It was a really just low key conversation. I learned a ton, and it's something I want to do again. I want to do it every year. I want to do it multiple times a year. And we even thought about tying it into our... We talk
about someone different too. Like there was someone else doing something very similar. Yeah, like it'd be interesting to have someone different come out and do it and see what kind of results we get.
Yeah, and one of the things we even talked about having it with our appreciation dinner is having something set up. But the issue there is we didn't want people staying too late or drinking too much, which was
that's a tough one.
But I think that would be really cool because the folks that come to that are really into it. So
totally. I had a ton of fun, and I know this was Tom's idea, and you know what, Tom, you don't get enough credit, and I don't know if a lot of people realize that when you listen to the Buzz episodes or some of these standalone episodes, you're responsible for those formats. When you think about like listener questions, this or that, that's hot. Like these were Grow, Read a Book. These were all your ideas, or to have like the Moth Nights, or to have a rooted discussion. Mm-hmm. Like these were.
I wouldn't give too much credit to myself because I just listen to a lot of podcasts and just say, "Hey, that's something we could do."
but you at least recognize it, and we made it work.
Yep.
For us. So and one of these is Native Plant Trivia, which is episode 132, which we had a guest cancel last minute, and we were able to. Tom put questions together, and that was really entertaining, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, I want to have another round of that at some point. We were thinking about doing it between the holidays, and it's like we got too much going on to bring someone in here.
I didn't want it to get lost either.
So we wanted to have another round. I was even thinking, Fran, this would be a little more difficult to do, but it's something we could potentially do when we're at Mance this week.
Oh, okay.
And not bring the whole setup, but bring our little mobile setup, and we're gonna have a captive audience there. So.
And instead of a hotel room, we actually have like we could invite them back.
Yep.
We could do it. Just sit down and do a quick native plant trivia. That would be awesome.
Yep. So
how fun would it be to get someone like John McGee and
because then we can get some ringers in that room.
Yes, so, totally.
We'll try and at least get a podcast down there. If not, make a trivia come together.
And before I forget, Sam Thayer was Meet the Foragers Harvest.
Yes,
and it was episode 40.
Okay, that was pretty early on.
Yeah.
So the second one for me is the one I recorded down in
Kentucky.
In Kentucky at the Eastern Native Grassland Symposium. And that was I called it Spreading the Gospel, but it was with Kyle Leibarger and Shannon Trimboli. So Kyle Leibarger from Native Habitat Project, and then Shannon Trimboli from Backyard Ecology. We were also supposed to have Jake, who's Kyle's co-host and also partner with Native Habitat Project, but he had a big like business deal going down. So I'm like, okay, you can take care of that and we'll knock this out. But that was just a lot of fun. And it just to be in the same room with people who are trying to accomplish the same thing to varying degrees of success.
It's a different vibe that you get from a normal, because the normal podcast, we have a format. People are coming in, and even if especially if they haven't listened, they don't know what's coming up.
It's funny. I was in one of these native plant groups, and someone was asking for like YouTube series, and then they started keying on podcasts, and someone wrote, there's some of the native plant podcasts I like, but I find some of them to be too chatty. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's about me. I thought about commenting just like in jest.
Oh, I know who that is.
Facebook can not always, people don't always understand satire and that kind of stuff. I would just be like, oh yeah, I know.
I know the review. I still wear that review with a badge of honor.
Oh no, this wasn't the review. This was someone actually in a Facebook group.
But I'm wondering if it's the person that gave the review.
It could be.
That's what I'm thinking.
I bet there's multiple people who think we're too chatty for it. I don't think it's just one person.
Some of them live under the same roof that I do. My third one would be the Native Plants Healthy Planet Live podcast that we did with Dr. Randy Eckel for the Native Plant Society in New Jersey. That was episode 130, and I loved being able to do it in front of a live audience and see reactions and have people interact with us, which is something that we have never gotten, especially since we started this and COVID hit 2 weeks later. We're coming up on 3 years, by the way. February 25th will be 3 years. So, by the way, I had to look ahead. at the end of 5 years, we'll be at 250 episodes.
Wow.
So that will be an exciting landmark for us. But it was just nice. Dr. Randy Eckel was a fantastic guest. We learned a lot from her. It was fun having the energy of a live crowd, and I would really love to do that again. I don't want that to be a one-off. I would love to have that opportunity again at some point.
Yeah. So then the third one I'll point out, it was episode 113, which was about Pinelands Nursery seed production, where I had on my brother, and Fran was also not here. And
I'm seeing like a trend.
I was waiting for you to pick up on that pattern, Fran.
Yeah, there's a trend.
I really only put a lot of, I really enjoyed those episodes, but I put that in there and really just take a subtle dig at Fran. Like, all my favorite episodes, the one where you were. But so that was with my brother, which was a lot of fun. We got a lot of great feedback about that because it kind of pulled back the curtain on what it was like to grow up at a nursery and then also kind of grow with the nursery in a sense, and some of the things that we were doing and what we were thinking about. But the other one I had on there for real was episode 114, which was with the Outdoor Equity Alliance, and it was another one. I had a similar feeling with that one, as I did with Dr. Groffman. I'm like, how is this happening right in our backyard? And we had no idea.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
So it's an organization we want to become more involved with in 2023.
And I love that not only do we feel that way, Renata Barton feels that way and has kept in touch with us. And she came out to our, what do you call it? That night.
We have our appreciation dinner where we have some customers and this is like a private event.
Colleagues,
we have some colleagues.
Acquaintances,
it's a good mix of people who are in all spectrum of the field, whether they're actually doing the restoration work, they're doing the design, they're doing some of the regulatory stuff, and oversight, or just the education and outreach type stuff. So we get a good mix of people. She came to that. I was really glad to see her there. Yes. And although I did already drop the ball once where I had a mix up in dates. We were going to provide some centerpieces for an event they were holding. And then I got home that night. She said she needed them on Thursday, and I got home. It's Thursday night, and I'm like, oh, yeah, she never called me back about the centerpieces. Let me make sure she meant Thursday, not tomorrow. She would. Yeah. And then she's like, oh, yeah, it's going on right now. Like, you want me to drive them up?
That's okay. We'll make that up.
We'll make it up to her.
We'll make that up. And my last one was the Headwaters podcast, talking about white bark pine and Glacier National Park. And it was nice it's one of those instances where it was nice to speak with another podcast host. Yeah. But someone who's boots on the ground that's doing a lot of great work and what they experienced, and just to have that kind of connection with them. And it was fantastic.
Yeah. And
Harry was a fantastic guest. Yeah, she was wonderful.
That was a lot of fun. And my wife and I have been talking about maybe taking a trip out west with our son. And one of the places we talked about was going to Yellowstone and Glacier and spend a lot of time in western Montana. And so I was thinking about giving Perry a call or email and saying, hey, just so you know, we might be out there in, I don't know, sometime over the summer.
She did throw that offer out there to catch up if we make it out that way. So those, if you're unfamiliar with any, did you have another one?
I did have one more. Okay, I know I skipped around so I could pull my little prank on you.
No problem.
The last one I had was episode 120, which was the Nature Conservancy Cities program.
Fantastic episode.
Yeah, that was
Johnny was a ton of fun.
Yeah, Johnny, and it's Johnny Keespay, Dr. Johnny Keespay, and just what they're doing in some of these urban settings, and some of the stuff that he's talked to us about off the air that he's like, I don't want to include in the podcast because it's not a done deal yet.
Yes.
So, and I want to make sure that we're doing it before we do it, is like some of the ideas you have are just fantastic, and I can't wait to be a part of that kind of stuff.
And we've talked to him. I know since then he's connected with Cass Urban Mead with some things that how he can work together with the Nature Conservancy, can work together with the Xerces Society, and we've talked about a couple other things too, grants and things that we see coming up through New Jersey. So that was just a wonderful episode. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
So I would say, if any of you haven't heard these, go back and revisit them the same way with the top 10. These are our top. Is it top 10? Let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that's our top 10. So
these are the more recent ones too. We did one last year too. So if you go back a year ago to almost to the day, you'll find our episode from where we did our own top 10.
Yeah.
last year as well.
So go back and check some of these out. We think you'll be happy that you did, and or at least we hope you do.
Yeah.
You will. So, and I got to take it or leave it for you.
I see that, and I like this question.
Yeah, because it's something that just kind of hit me as I was walking through our parking lot. And
I wonder why.
And
was it a bus or was it a truck?
But I noticed a couple broken plastic plant labels on the ground, and I started thinking, plant labels, which are mainly plastic, are a big expense for a lot of nurseries. Not so much us. Like we keep it very minimal. We don't tag every plant. And it's just enough so that you know what the plant is. But when you think of retail, like some of these are novels that are attached in both size and length, giving information. And especially with technology, I was thinking that some of these could just be a QR code at this point to take you, to identify the plant and take you to where the information is. So I'm just thinking, like, where do these plant labels go? Like, our propagator said he's been out to jobs that he know that we supplied 20 years ago, and he has found our labels out there.
Yep.
So is this a hindrance for what's going on, or is it just some people are just throwing them away, and then in some instances they're living forever?
Yeah, there's a lot that I know. I've been to job sites, and so when we sell a flat of plugs, so herbaceous plants, we put one tag in the whole flat. It's not like all 50 plants get a tag. It's one. There's one tag per flat. And but you go to a place that just got 10,000 flats, you have 10,000 tags that are out there, and people try and pick them up, but they miss a lot. And even if so, you miss 10% out of 10,000 flats. Like, so you still have a whole 1,000 plant labels out there, right?
Yeah.
So that's a lot of plastic.
Yeah.
It's one of those, I wish I could leaf it, but I don't know what you do otherwise.
I was going to say, is there really an alternative? Is there an alternative? I don't know.
What a lot of smaller nurseries do where they're still handwriting tags.
Yeah.
They'll use popsicle sticks.
Which
so now you have a wood product, and it makes sense.
Yeah. We can't.
I don't know how
we can't do that.
I don't like how many popsicle sticks would we have to. We'd probably have as much plastic in wrappers for the popsicle sticks as we would have plant labels.
When I first started in the nursery industry, that was your winter project. You hand wrote all the labels because there weren't printers, and if there were, you didn't have the technology or the database or even the print. Like you didn't have. You didn't have the means for it in the 80s.
And it's now you go to the retail side of things. I don't know what you could use that you could put a whole edition of Harry Potter on.
Listen,
for the plant label.
Monrovia, their building that houses their labels is the size of our whole office.
Yes. Oh, I imagine.
So if you think about that, or at least it was back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s.
I know there's probably people who are thinking about this because the biggest knock, well, I wouldn't say the biggest knock. One of the knocks on the nursery industry is that, and I'd say the biggest knock on the native plant nursery industry is you rely on a lot of plastic.
We do.
Our plants come in plastic pots. You have plastic labels, and even though we're doing something that is supposed to be environmentally impactful or in a good way, you have a negative connotation with all the plastic. And but I don't know what we've talked about with the pots. I don't know what else we do yet. We've been actively looking for options with the pots. Yeah. A lot of people, you're growing something that's green, and you're like, well, I'm using a lot of black stuff to do it with the pots and all the plastic that goes into it. It's it's just I don't know what you do yet.
It's still coming. We've seen products out there that are that they're more suited to a 1-year crop, like annuals, where you can get away from the pots, where it's like a root maker type sleeve.
Yeah. Now with the labels, I've seen places that go where with no label, but then they print it on the pot. But now you can only use that pot for that plant.
Yes.
You can't. So even like let's say it's a proven winner's pot, the white pot. You can put the plant information on the pot, but if it's for a peony, it's got to be, you can only put a peony in that pot, because if you put a zinnia in that pot, and now it's got the wrong information on it. Yeah. There's a whole, it's amazing how much goes into making these labels too, like the market research.
Yeah.
I remember a story, I think I've even told it here, where they were doing like the planting instructions for a plant, and instruction number 1 was dig a V-shaped hole, and people couldn't figure out how to dig a hole in the ground like the letter V. Like if you, I guess it's hard to describe, but if you, the implication was dig a V sideways, vertically, like into the ground. People were trying to dig a V horizontally, like as if you were drawing it on top of the ground. And that's like, from a nursery perspective, oh man, that's like really basic information. Yeah. But the consumer that didn't have the nursery background really struggled with, and that was like number 1 on the to-do list for how to plant this plant. Yeah. So there's a lot of market research that goes into what is on those labels to making sure it's easy to understand and has good information.
I would love to leaf it, but I agree. There's not a way, like when you look at technology, our website, every plant has its own page with all the information that you could want for that plant. So if it had a QR code, you could scan it and go to that to get all the information, and you could keep it instead of putting it in the ground.
Yeah.
I would love for it to be a way that, because you're watering plants, if they're in a garden center, they're water. If it's something that you could keep, that you could put in a binder, or if it was a magnet that went on your, I don't know.
Yeah, what I keep coming to when I think about it is, they have those, I think they've made straws out, but like the green plant-based plastics, and you start using that. But I don't know what the life cycle, and then you have to have it so that it's like can go get in a roll and on a printer.
So you can print it, yeah.
And that's for a very basic label. Now you start talking the ones that, like I said, have a whole novel on them. It's
they can reduce that. I think. I know there's marketing behind it, but I think at some point it's got to turn people away.
A lot of folks have gone to just putting a smaller label with a QR code that then has a web page with the instructions, so you don't have to print it on every single plant. Yeah. But yeah, like we're using very few labels where. You go to other places, there's a label on every pot. And I guess technically we have a label on with when you have a flat plugs. But when we ship 100
but there's 50,
we have maybe 5 to 10 labels. Like there's one per 10 plant.
1 per 5 or 1 per 10.
1 per 10. So we try and limit the amount of labels we're putting out there, because it costs a lot of money too. Those labels are not cheap.
And they're also going to landscape professionals that should know the plant material. So when they see and they go, this is that. Should. Not, it's not always.
It's surprising when you show up some places.
It's more complicated in a truck with a lot of diversity on it. But if you're only getting 3 items, a lot of the times it's easy enough to tell them apart. So
it's one of those, I'd love to leaf it, but I don't know how we do it yet. Someone is going to come up with that. And I would speculate it's probably in the next 5 years. Someone's going to have that's when we'll see the first start of someone having an answer.
So if you're going to a garden center and you're buying a plant and it's got a novel attached to it, leave your feedback with that nursery that maybe it would be a little more green if they used a QR code and less information to make that, so to reduce, especially if it's plastic. Or if you see someone using something that we hadn't mentioned, we would love to know that too. Go to the Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group. Give us your feedback.
Just another little aside. I've been getting ads for these, I forget what they're called, but they're basically these metal plant labels for like in your garden.
Oh yeah.
And they're like shaped like little gnomes, and they have like the hats, but they have the hats tend to be, or part of the gnome will have to be like have something to do with what the plant is, but they have like a marijuana label, and it's got like marijuana leaves all over the gnome hat. And the gnome looks a little bit more sluggish than the other gnomes.
I love that.
Oh my god,
that's pretty good marketing.
Yeah,
there you go. Well, would there be what plant would have a juggalo? Juggalo gnome. What would it be?
I don't even know.
Would it be black locust?
Yeah. Or black walnut.
Or black walnut, sorry, black walnut. It would be Jugglin's Niagara.
So, all right. Well, that's going to wrap us up for today. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed listening to The Buzz. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Native Plants Healthy Planet, presented by Pinelands Nursery.
Thank you, RJ Comer, for our Buzz theme music. Make sure you stream or buy RJ's music on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you consume your music, or check out his Americana playlist on Pandora. You'll be glad that you did. Follow us on Twitter at Pineland Nursery, Facebook at Pinelands Nursery NJ, Instagram at nativeplants_healthyplanet, and YouTube at Pinelands Nursery. Don't forget about the question and comment line. Call us just like Nick did if you have a question or comment at 215-346-6189. I will repeat that, 215-346-6189. Ask a question or leave a comment. We'll play it on a future episode of The Buzz and answer it to the best of our ability. And I think we're at 1.4 thousand members of the Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group. And I think I only had to ban one person for spam in the last over the holidays. So
I know just sitting here, we got like 3 or 4 more people requested to join too.
That's fantastic. And the conversations were great. We mentioned Andra Pruitt with her discovery, and there were some other great articles. So make sure you can talk to other like-minded people by joining the group, and it's good conversation, and everyone's welcome.
Yeah, so you can buy our Native Plants Healthy Planet shirts at our website, www.nativeplantshealthyplanet.com. It's a little different format. Fran just redid it, and there's just
All
a
the
link on the top with
there,
the banner there. Everything basically looks the same, but it's just a little bit cleaner format. If you click on that link, it'll take you to a Teespring store. There's lots of cool designs out there, and it's not just T-shirts. There's phone cases and aprons and all kinds of different stuff on there. You can also listen to our podcast at www.nativeplants.healthyplanet.com. But you're probably going to listen on Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, really wherever you consume your podcast. So if you listen on a platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify that lets you rate our podcast, we really appreciate it if you rate 5 stars. And if you leave a little write-up with that, especially on Apple Podcasts, and then I get to see it, I get to feel good for a few minutes, and then I give you a shout-out on the Buzz. And then what it also does for us and for you and for Native Plants is it pushes us in a position where more people are going to see our podcast show up on their Apple Podcast feed, on their Spotify feed.
You're spreading the word.
It just spreads the word. It spreads our message, which hopefully is something you want other people to listen to.
And there's a lot of great ways to do that. Buy a shirt. I just bought 4 long-sleeve shirts for myself to wear to conferences and trade shows, and it gets people asking questions, and you can refer them to the podcast. It's just a lot of good ways that you can spread that message, especially like those reviews. If you can pop us up higher on the charts, more people will see it. And I do want to reiterate that really when you reach out and send us an email or you give us a review and you write something, makes our day. Like coming back from the holiday and seeing the email messages with the kind words was very, very wonderful.
Fran, I completely forgot about it.
I don't have a secret. I think we're secretless.
Well, I guess the one I would do is this is probably a good one too. Is I really for a long time have been on like the reusable water bottle kick.
Yes.
Like since I was in college, I would always use them. What I used to do, because I was too cheap to actually buy one, is I would get there was an energy drink. I don't remember what it's called, but it would come in like this. It was more found in the Midwest. It came in like a camouflage can, and some of them were orange and some were brown. But it was metal. It was like a harder metal, and I would just use that as my reusable water bottle, and I would take that everywhere. And people were like, "Man, you drink a lot of energy drinks." I'm like, "No, it's just water. I just like I like the bottle, and I'm cheap." And then eventually, someone got me as a gift like a Yeti mug.
Okay.
And then I was using that all the time, and there was like a good period of time, like, "Oh yeah, I really should clean this." But I didn't.
Yeah.
I just kept forgetting to. And then my wife went and filled it up for me one day, and she's like, I had to wash that for you because it was just disgusting. I knew it was gross.
Yeah.
Because I was like, there's like black rings in here and stuff, and the straw, I like wiped out the top. I'm like, oh, that shouldn't be a different color. And but I still was drinking out of it. And they can get really dirty.
They are. And you know, some
like
of these
really,
some of these reusable ones are harder to clean too.
Yeah. Like I just got a new one. My brother gave me a Hydro Flask for Christmas, and I've been using that because I don't know, I didn't want to stick stickers on anything, but I have all these stickers. I'm like, I'm going to stick this on a thing, so I stuck them on this one, and it looks cool. I got our Native Plants Healthy Planet stickers. I got a lacrosse sticker on here. I got one from the Kentucky Natural Lands Trust.
That's awesome.
Me. So yeah, I got some stuff on there, but yeah, I'm like, my hand's not going to fit in there to clean this thing.
No, so. I have a Yeti that I bought last summer, and my wife, I'm trying to remember what kind she has, but we went out and bought special cleaning things to make sure you can't fit your hands in some of those. So we're definitely doing
that's going to be the case with that has been the case of mine. Is I don't clean them regularly enough. Keep that in mind when you're doing stuff.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
Fran, your phone sounds like it's going to blow up. So I think we should wrap it up there. Thank you, everyone. I'm Tom.
And I am Fran. Thanks again, everyone. Coming up, we have a great guest. I don't want to spoil it, though.
Yeah.
I will say they're from the National Wildlife Foundation. So make sure you tune in and listen to that one. And until then, keep it native.
Thank you for listening to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Remember to like, share, follow, and comment.